So I'm a person that's had a pretty complicated history with running. I grew up never thinking that running was for me. I grew up with asthma my whole life. I didn't think that it was cool to run. And it wasn't really till somebody took me out to the mountains and I fell in love with mountain running. When I started getting more and more into trail running and I started to do more adventures, I would run into people on the trail that would say things like, yeah, you're a runner. Didn't make sense to me. I've always told people I like to run. I've never said I am a runner. But in the last few months, I started to kind of get this joy out of road running that I never had before. I've come along this journey and I find myself in this place now where I've seen how my road running can complement my trail running and vice versa. It's become this wide world of running for me, and I'm really excited to put some real intention into it and see what can happen. As a teenage kid, you see these movies, you hear these stories, and they go to that overlook and everybody hangs out there and listen to cool music or whatever. And I always wanted to find that. This was this place where I was like, oh, you get to see the whole valley almost. The big thing for me, the unlock there was that it opened the doors. It didn't make running feel like it was this concerted effort. I never ran before or after work, before I got into road running, because it was like, well, we're going out to the mountains or whatever. I knew I had to have a couple hours, but it wasn't like, I guess before I cook dinner, I'm gonna go out. That wasn't a thing. And now it is a thing. Obviously still looking for trails, but it lets me be in tune with myself a lot more now that I can both embrace road running and embrace trail running and just think about it as running. Hey, Paul. Good to see you, man. The first time you took me out, I think it was 2014, and it was right before the first 8,000 that I did. Paul was the first person to try to get me into running. It was right when I got to REI, and he's like, yeah, let's go run. And I'm like, God damn it, I gotta fake that I can run with this dude, Afterwards, when I got in trail running, and I was able to do it, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. There's certain parts of running that I've just never associated with or found happiness or stoke around, I thought, right? For me, road running was PE class, getting asthma and lying to my PE coach and being like, I can't run today, or ditching it in high school or whatever, right? Revisiting some of those things. Now it's kind of like road running, and I kind of like the rhythmic nature of longer strides, which sounds blasphemous to Alan from 2 years ago. What are you doing? Short strides, man, And I'm kind of oh, but this is cool,
Can't beat Southern California for trail running, road running.
Spent 3 years in Seattle.
Getting out there.
Yeah. Trail running, especially, and mountain running and all that stuff was just so fun because it was always revolved around being outside and being on the trail. And now road running, I can kind of see that a little bit, but it's not as fun. One of the things I did like about having a road race coming up was that it forced me to be very specific about get out, do this many miles, do whatever.
Right, yeah.
Obviously, you got me into running through trail running, but now that I'm getting into road running, I wonder if you have any thoughts about that.
One of the biggest mistakes if you're running a race is to start out too fast.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to, control
that.
That
happened to me in New York.
And, the other thing I would caution you about is overtraining, where you don't taper down enough towards the event you're training for. You're going to perform poorly because your body didn't get enough recovery time.
Do you think that if I had a training plan together, you'd want to see it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 years ago, I moved from Southern California up to the Northwest. During a really complex time, it allowed me to really try to find as much joy, satisfaction, excitement, really dig deep. Everything that was myself, I really had to examine, I really had to embrace. And it was kind of wild at first, but then once I got there, I was like, whoa, this is rad.
1, 2, 3, Run Club Seattle!
It's been super cool to have people ask me about recommendations for trails and be able to go to places, and they're like, oh, did you go up here? No, I just like being outside. And feeling that insatiable desire. So we're just like, oh, what about all the North Cascades? What about all these other areas that I haven't been to? Definitely that exploration was like a high motivating kind of factor for why I ran. You know, to feel that sense of togetherness is sometimes really hard to do on the trail. This has amplified my running so much because it doesn't have to feel like work to get out on the road, or it doesn't have to feel like a chore. It feels like I get to hang out with a bunch of friends and I get to meet new friends every day.
I mean, maybe the first like 20 times somebody asked me to run a marathon, I said no. It didn't even seem like a serious conversation. Like anybody that would ask me to run a marathon, even a half marathon, like I thought that was a crazy thing to think about. Meanwhile, I'm spending like 8 to 10 hours on the trail feeling like this is amazing. Yeah, we're gonna wake up and do it again tomorrow. Like it just did not compute for me, the idea that you can do this. So eventually I found myself out of my head enough to try to do some of these intentional training runs and get out there and see what a marathon looked like for me. And that led me down the path to enter into one of the biggest marathons in the world, the New York City Marathon. I don't know that I'll ever experience something like that again. When the cannon went off, everybody went across the Verrazano Bridge, like, I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing in the world. And part of me felt like, how long is this high gonna last? Like, there's so much excitement and I felt really good and it was super fun. Then we hit the half marathon point and I was like, this is tough. I maybe put too much energy into the first part of this marathon.
Feeling good, dude? I wouldn't use that word.
And I realized that I just wasn't in the best physical place to like make that run as enjoyable as it could have been. I really left thinking like, okay, how do I practice the things that are not running? How do I practice the fueling? How do I practice like the mental stamina? It made me reconsider what I would do next time. But honestly, I think the biggest takeaway for me was that I was even thinking there was a next time.
First and only medal.
There is nothing like the New York City Marathon. That's a hard one to start with.
Yeah, the bar's high.
The bar is so high.
Yeah. I felt so motivated and so encouraged by the things I could do during that marathon. Obviously, probably because the energy of the crowd. And so I was just wondering like what I could do if I was a little bit more intentional about it.
Totally.
So what we'll do, we'll start with...
You know, one of the big things about marathon training is that there are multiple different levers that people are changing throughout their training in terms of adding more mileage, and that's a stressor to the body. Adding intensity, that's a stressor to the body. You know, more time on your feet. And so we really have to be careful about the amount of stresses that we're adding at one time. And so, you know, generally with marathon training, we say not to add more than 10% of your miles each week. And that goes for your overall mileage for the week. Making sure you're not doing too much too fast. Making sure that you're incorporating other elements like strength, flexibility, mobility, stretching, warming up properly, cooling down. How'd you feel?
I feel good.
You feel good, you look good, you look great.
So 16 weeks is a long time for a training plan, and there's a lot of components, you know, in any given week. Can you talk about like how that changes or it evolves over time?
A typical week is going to include a long run, which is going to build up to about 20 miles as you reach your peak, really practicing and preparing you for the time on your feet you'll need for race day. A tempo run, which is going to be 10 to 30 minutes of a marathon pace or a little bit faster, sustained effort. You'll have intervals that can be long or short, and that allows for you to practice a little bit faster turnover. And then you'll have base miles, conversation pace miles to help continue to build your overall mileage. That can often be paired with strides, which are just going to be really, really short intervals to help you practice turnover. Your body is going to know how to run marathon pace by practicing running marathon pace. So being able to practice that throughout different speed sessions and long runs is super critical. Everything doesn't necessarily have to be about getting faster. You know, you want to feel good, you want to get to the starting line without injury, like you want to get to the finish line without injury. Assuming you continue to do more marathons, there'll be times where you'll go for the time and times where you go for the vibes, and it can all be just like a really rewarding experience.
That's awesome. I love hearing that.
So when I think about the difference between going into my first marathon and going into the second marathon, this time around, I've thought about what it means to go through a training cycle. Definitely, I've changed my tactics from marathon 1 to marathon 2. And yeah, just really excited to see if anything pays off.
we thought we were gonna get a heads up on when we can start the marathon, and it was just like, okay, go. And I was literally in the bathroom and came like running. We were literally like the last folks to run with the pack out of the start line, which was wild. I guess it's notable that both of the marathons I've done so far have started on like these beautiful bridges, these incredible waterways. Look how pretty that is. Woo! This is so rad. Nice shot. Thank you so much. Yeah. Woo! Hilly. Yeah, good work. Thanks, y'all. I fully expected this marathon to be a lot slower because just of the elevation gain and because the 8 stations were just going to be different and there wasn't going to be as much fuel. I was carrying a little bit more weight. It almost felt like it was more helpful for me, maybe, coming from the trail. Like, I can understand, like, the hills actually feel like a reprieve. Downhill, uphill, whatever. So maybe this was easier in some way. Yeah! I wasn't looking at time the entire time. I basically just had my watch on the screen that was just heart rate and pace. And there was a point towards the end of the marathon where I was like, wow, my legs can't move faster. My legs are not super stoked on doing another half marathon, but I'll get through it. Yeah! Woo, 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 woo! Awesome! Woo, woo!
All right, have a good summer.
Thank you. Wow. Come to find out that I ran this marathon faster than my first marathon. Marathon number 2, definitely a success. Learned lots of things from marathon 1. Definitely my legs feel like they worked for it, but I guess training works. I'm like trying to really mindfully walk, and my body's like, nah, man. I'm probably gonna take a break. I think I'm gonna get some climbing done, which I'm super psyched on. So get excited about being outside, and then after a few weeks, come back and revisit running with a renewed vigor. Moving away from family and friends is really interesting. But I think I grew a lot in really embracing who I was and really growing a lot of that like confidence, a lot of that sincerity, a lot of that self-love, all those things. As I move back down from the Northwest to Southern California, it feels like I know how to balance that a little bit more and not have to spend every day like it's got to be 10 hours on the trail. Potato Mountain. It feels weird. It almost breaks my heart to say that out loud, but at the same time, it like fills my heart to know that like those other hours are going to be spent with people that I love and people that I care about. It's a game changer being able to see my sister and her drive up to my apartment and bring the dogs that she's really excited about. And my mom, you know, like feeling how my mom will hug me in person is obviously very different than like hearing her voice or like even watching her on a video call or something like that. So if we can spend more time together, it feels really good to be back home.
Your spirit seems real lit up.
It is. I mean, it was pretty magical being back up there on Baldy and like, oh man, I'm so excited. And now, like, without sounding like I'm an egomaniac, I'm in better shape. You know what I mean? And so like, this feels very chill, you know? And that's cool. Like this never felt chill, you know? So that's kind of cool that I can come up here and cruise up here, just running up Baldy. Like that's wild to me, you know? This mountain is pretty special to me. I've spent a lot of time on it. Like, it's one of the first places I fell in love with trail running, and now there's a race here. Like, what a welcome home. There it is, dude. Yeah. Pretty excited about it. You know, we spent the last few days out here in this area, and it's such a cool trail network, and there's just something special about, like, bringing this story back here, especially as I move back down to Southern California. So yeah, Feeling really excited, feeling really lucky. Are you into running a lot?
Yeah, I just started this year.
That's cool. Yeah.
Because of your videos. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, a little nervous, right? I mean, running with Magda, who like is very nice and very chill, and she's like so gracious, and I've kind of thrown out there like, maybe I can run in the Bay Area with you. She's like I love that. But she's won Western States. Like, running with one of the best runners in the world, ultra runners. So you're just like, it's gonna be a really rad day, and really stoked to just spend some time on the trail and spend some time on the mountain. 5 minutes to race start. Feeling pretty excited. Yeah, it's just awesome to see all these like different running communities, and everybody's repping local running club shirts, which I'm so excited to get to know a little bit more. I'm like surrounded by these incredible HOKA athletes, which is wild. The emotion, the excitement is palpable, and people are stoked, and they're just coming together to run and have that community. So yeah, T-minus 3 minutes, we'll see what happens.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are 30 seconds away from the start. 30 seconds away. Go!
3, 2, 1. How gorgeous that backdrop. So rad.
Oh, how's the climb?
Trying to cover on the uphill.
It's all uphill.
Easier from here, that's the hardest part. Nice work.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a while. Maybe about 5 years since I've been on this part of the Baldy area. Man, Baldy's got a lot of REI history for me. So stoked to be back. Stoked to be sharing it with folks. Yeah, I've missed SoCal trails because you can see like where the trail goes up and the network. Ancho, coming strong. Yeah, positive affirmation. That's what we need today. Got this. We got it. We all got it. 2 miles. 2 miles.
Alan is amazing. Big fan.
All right. Yeah. Downhill. Time to fly. Man, I gotta run it in. I've never thought that that was of much value, to be a runner, to be an athlete. What does that even mean? What does that get me in life? I think it's important for a lot of people to just do whatever they feel comfortable with. And people feeling like uncomfortable saying, I'm a runner, I don't usually go, but you are. I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I like to run too. See you around, yeah. Magda, great job.
Hey, oh my gosh. You're my inspiration.
If you love running, you should go out and do it. And as a community, we have the ability to welcome others into that sport and that activity. There's a place in running for everybody. Anybody's a runner if they go out there and try it. I started running because I thoroughly enjoyed being outside, and it's why I continue running. But now I'm starting to see lots of other perspectives, and it's starting to be a little bit more of a holistic experience for me. And it just feels like there's this whole other side that I'm like tapping into and like peeking around the corner and being like, I can probably hang, which is crazy because I feel like at least I didn't think I can hang before. And now I'm a little bit more confident in even Alan as a runner, which is crazy to say.